Alora.
And I'm Stella.
And welcome to Let's Talk About Soaps. Today on the show,
we have a soap opera legend.
On the heart of daytime.
That's right. And she is a legend from One Life to Live.
A true legend.
So all you One Life to Livers, you're going to be in for a treat.
Yes, get ready.
You remember this character from One Life to Live. She has the big hair. She has the crazy, zany personality.
The big attitude.
Yes, you know who I'm talking
Speak
about.
her mind. Don't hold back. And what makes this interview so special, she invited us into her home.
Yes.
Okay, now soap fans, it don't get no better than that. Okay.
So we'd like to welcome to Let's Talk About Soaps, Ilene Kristen, better known as
Roxy Bolson.
Foxy, Roxy. Foxy. Get it right.
Excuse me, Foxy Roxy.
Hey, baby girl, don't you worry about a thing. Your mama's here.
I'm a little nervous, okay? So sue me.
Sue you? That's not something that you say to a lawyer, especially a lawyer who's gotten under your dryer with green hair.
SOS, save our story.
Oh, let's drink to Eileen.
Come on, catfish, let's dance. We ain't going down without a fight.
And we just love her. We love her character. And she is a sweetheart on the screen as well as off.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I miss Roxy. You know, it's been since I guess November 18th since I put those clothes on, and I think a world without Roxy is not a very happy place. Actually, of course I'm prejudiced, but a lot of her clothing is down in my basement. You know, and it talks to me all the time when I go down.
Ring Dog Foxy Roxy. But your career it didn't start with just Roxy. So we're here to talk about your career. How did you get started in acting?
Okay, well, actually, I got started as a dancer. When I was 14 years old, I was taking a class with one of the most amazing people, Matt Maddox. He was a very, very well-known choreographer. And he was famous, and I studied with him at 14, and he came over to me one day in class and he went, "Would you like to be on television?" I choreographed the Bell Telephone Hour, and I was just like, the Bell Telephone Hour, because I'd seen every star, you know, every big star had been a host of it, and these wonderful dancers. And so I ended up doing the Bell Telephone Hour with Robert Young from Father Knows Best.
Wow.
At that time, that doesn't get any bigger than that. And Carol Lawrence, who was the star of West Side Story. It was several years after that, but it was Carol Lawrence. And I was a dancer on it, and which was really amazing. I had to do a cartwheel, and I hadn't done any gymnastics at all. So this was live television, you know, we had to come off of a slide and go into a cartwheel. And I don't think I've ever been as nervous about anything in my entire life. Now, for some reason, my mother always said to me over the years, because she's always very supportive of me, she goes, "You know, cartwheels are not really your thing." I don't know what she saw in this broadcast, but I was always scared to see it. So I was at a big fan thing, and somebody came over to me and said, "You know, I saw that you were on Bell Telephone Hour. I can get you a copy of that." And I went, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. He went, "What's the matter?" I went, I had to do a cartwheel in it, and I'm not so sure. Like, according to my mother, I might not have been any good. So he actually got me this tape. And I was I was never so nervous about watching anything in my life. And I actually was great doing the cartwheel. It was the girl either before me who slipped on the fake grass. So my mother, in her nervousness, must have thought it was me. So all these years I thought I didn't do that cartwheel very well. Anyway, so I know that was my start in the business. And from there I worked with Michael Bennett, the choreographer who later did Chorus Line. But I did a show with him called Henry Sweet Henry, which was based on the world of Henry Orient. And that was really a thrill. It was a very, very difficult experience. He was demanding, to say the very least. And it was a very hard experience. I kind of knew then that I wasn't really going to be like a dancer who's going to have a long career. I kind of figured my dance career would span from 14 to 18, and I was absolutely right about that. And I used to act my way through the dance numbers, so I went, wow, I must be a really good actress, because I'm making people believe that I can do a cartwheel, I can do these double turns, which really I wasn't very good. I had good rhythm, though. I had very, very good rhythm.
So how did you transition from a dancer to the soaps? How did that happen?
Well, there was an intermediate area which combined my dance ability with my acting ability and my singing ability, which was Grease. I was in the original
Really?
Grease.
So how was that working on Grease
That
with
was
John
amazing.
Travolta?
Well, John came into the show about a year after we were doing it, because Jim Canning, the original Duty, wanted to go back to Chicago. So John came in from the First National Company, and he stole my thunder, though, I have to say, because I was the youngest person. I was a lot younger than a lot of the people in the show. And John was younger than me. So I let him be the baby. And then, after that was over, I was playing like a Janis Joplin type of character. After I quit Grease, I was there for 2 years. I did this like Janis Joplin rock singer in this show called Blackbird Spring, and I got a call to audition for Ryan's Hope. And I was not really a soap opera watcher. I used to watch the Dick Van Dyke Show. I was really like a comedy person. I Love Lucy. And so my agent called me over, and I went, I don't really want to go for a soap. And he went, oh, you know, it'll probably run for 6 months, which it ran for many, many, many years. I was there in 3-year chunks. I'd be there for like 3 years, and then I'd be there for 2 years. But it was over a 14-year period that I did Delia. So when I auditioned for it, well, first of all, I walked into the casting person's office dressed like a hippie. I looked like Janis Joplin, you know, like on a really bad day. And she went, and she was great, Shirley Rich. They don't make them like this anymore. She goes, darling, do not, and I repeat, do not wear that hippie outfit when you come back for your audition, because you are right for this. And I went, I don't really want to do soap. She goes, I'm telling you, this is a wonderful, these people are wonderful, and it's Claire Labine and Paul Mayer. And I went, wow, whoever they are, I don't know. And they really were wonderful. And she was the type of casting person to warm up the room for you, which a lot of casting people don't do anymore for whatever reason. I think they're scared of like warming up the room, and then you come and you dud, and then they don't want to take the blame for that. But Shirley, I don't know what Shirley told them about me, but I walked into the room, and Claire Labine and Paul Mayer were like this. They were so, they were just, I don't know what she told them. Oh, she had just done Grease or whatever. Oh, she's playing a rock and roll singer. I don't know what, because they were so
He
excited.
welcomed you warmly, basically. So you were
A little too warmly, because then I thought, oh my God, these people really like me, and I don't really want to do a soap.
Wow.
What was it like as a soap opera actress compared to, let's say, what you did on Broadway and other
Thing. A casting person can create an aura around that person. And I've seen them do it, or I've seen them not do it. It's my big bone of contention. It's like sometimes they will choose not to do it, and you got to work really hard.
To put across the character.
Not, you know what? Screw the character. It's not that. It's who you are as a person, and what you've done before you got there. It's like Shirley said, well, she was in Henry Sweet Henry, and she was in Grease, and she just auditioned for WW and the Dixie Dance Kings, because that's what I had gone in for, this crazy movie. I think Burt Reynolds might have been in it or something. And I had done a really good audition. So she warmed up the room.
They already kind of knew what you could do. Yeah.
You know? I mean, I walked into auditions like a particularly in California, where the casting person could have helped me out a little, and you would just walk in there and the person's like, they're looking at your resume like this, they're going like, so what have you done? Like, you know, they're like, look, and then there's no homework involved.
So they welcomed you warmly, basically. So you
A little too warmly, because then I thought, oh my God, these people really like me and I don't really want to do a soap.
Wow. So what was it like as a soap opera actress compared to, let's say, what you did on Broadway and other television shows?
First of all, when we did Grease, we had a lot of rehearsal. So by the time we opened for critics, we knew what we were doing. Right. Even though they would change things, and believe me, they would throw out, they cut I had a terrible song in it, which they cut on the second preview, which was actually good because it really was unbearable. It was called Yuck. Name the song Yuck. Y-E-E-E-E-C-H. And it was
Do you remember it?
Yes.
You could sing a little bit for us?
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun.
When I pass him on the street, he goes, yuck. When I'm sitting in the movies and I take a nearby seat, he goes, bleh. When I stick my pom-poms in his face at some meth, do I have to go on? He goes, bleh. And I know, well, a boy like that is certainly the rarest, one who's scared to look directly in your eye. When I try to talk to him, he gets embarrassed, and he mumbles while he fumbles with his fly. Cha-cha-cha.
I like it.
The little part in the middle was cute. While I was saying that line, he mumbles while he fumbles with his fly, they had an old Playboy from like 1958 that they opened up. So I would get a laugh, and I thought, well, they're laughing at my line while he mumbles while he fumbles with his fly, and they were laughing at the nude 1958 pinup.
So you enjoyed the Broadway experience more than the soap opera experience? Or how is it different?
More. Well, it's different because you're doing the same thing every night. With the soap, what was scary was all of a sudden you've got these huge chunks of dialogue to learn, and every day is different. So you come in the morning and you go, oh my God. All right, it's 8 o'clock now, and at 3 o'clock I have to know every word of this, every word of it. But the way it was done back then, actually, you had a lot of, back in the old days, we didn't tape till like 3 o'clock, so we did a full blocking, we did a full run through without costumes, and then we did a full dress rehearsal. I mean, it was very labor intensive, but by the time you got to the taping, you really actually almost knew what you were doing. Whereas the way we did it, you know, for the last couple of years on One Life, we block and tape it.
So once you started doing a soap opera, you liked it, you enjoyed it?
I did. The difficult thing about Ryan's Hope was that my character was so emotional that I had a lot of crying stuff to do, and that's not a natural state of being for me, you know. My dad is here. I'm serious. I was going to say to you before that electronically I had this feeling something might happen. Isn't that interesting? Let's see, where was I?
Oh, you were talking about how it...
Oh, so by the time we would get to tape the soap, we were on top of it when I did Ryan's Hope. But it was they would give us these copious note sessions in between, and we had this director, Leela Swift, and Leela talked like this, and she'd have notes, copious notes, and there was so much to think about. I mean, there was just so much to think about. It was just scary how much there was to think about.
And this was every day for
well, I didn't do every day, but I worked a lot as Delia. I worked quite a bit, and I would get so much of any emotions that I had. I got them out at work, and I'd come home and you couldn't get me to cry if you tried or something.
So which character do you like better, Roxy or Delia?
Delia was fantastic, but I have to say that Roxy I'm partial to Roxy. You know, I got One Life to Live the day after 9/11. Wow. No, excuse me, the day before. The day before I was called, I was contacted. They had sent out feelers whether I was interested in doing something on One Life to Live, and I didn't know what they had in mind. And I was certainly interested in getting back on a show for real. But I was actually visiting somebody at a detention center, because I do mentoring work with kids, and it's a long story, but I was at a detention center waiting outside, and my agent called and he goes, you know, they were really serious about One Life to Live because you start September 27th. And I went, really? Really? They followed through on that? Wow, I can't believe it. And I said, what's the name of the character? And he went, Roxanne Balsam. And I went, Roxy. I just saw it all of a sudden. I went, she's from the wrong side of the tracks, right? And he went, yeah. And I went, Roxy. And it was, I called my mother, I spoke to my parents, I spoke to my sister, and then all hell broke loose the next day. You know. So I didn't talk about One Life to Live and Roxy for weeks.
Sort of a strange time for entertainment right after 9/11.
Yeah,
I remember it feeling like, you know, who can laugh at this situation going on?
Well, it was funny because by September 27th, that was a decision though that I made. I said I'm going to get people laughing again.
Yeah. Well, I have a letter here. We have a letter from I guess maybe your #1 fan.
One of your
and she's Denise from Boycott ABC7. She has a Facebook page, and of course the name Boycott ABC7 because ABC made the decision to take off One Life to Live and All My Children.
Shame on them.
Yeah, so if there are a lot of fan pages out here and shows like Let's Talk About Soaps, we want the soaps back.
Yes, we don't bring them
and
up.
so she couldn't be here because she had an accident, right? There was someone very sick in her family or a family friend. So she wrote this letter and she asked Tess McKenzie, the producer of this show, to read it on. So you can help me out, Laura, if you want. It says, Dear Arlene, we at Soap Saving Group Boycott ABC7, Denise and Yvonne, have loved you and all the years that you played Roxy on One Life to Live. Your portrayal of Roxy is one of a kind, and we thank you for all the laughter and the tears through the years, especially during the past year when ABC decided to put All My Children and One Life to Live on hold. Yvonne and Denise Quinones were heartbroken and identified with Roxy by working together with all soap fans on Team Boycott ABC7 and other SOS groups to help save One Life to Live. All the actors, cast, and crew members. You all have been like family to us for 4 decades.
Yes.
We cried and laughed together every day, 5 days a week. Watching Roxy trying to save Fraternity Row, so true and extremely close to our real life experience.
Sure.
All of us working daily, sending letters, emailing, making calls, tweeting, contacting sponsors, and various other tasks and events to help find another home for our beloved One Life to Live.
Yes.
We at Boycott ABC7 and all of our other groups have boycotted and the replacement shows, and ABC7 are dedicated to seeing Roxy, Vicky, the Buchanans, the Lords, and all our Landview family and friends back on TV soon.
Yes.
ABC made enormous mistakes in taking One Life to Live off the air. Eileen, we thank you for being such a wonderful, caring person. And we, Yvonne and Denise Quinones and Team Boycott ABC7 and all, we are never giving up. Just like Roxy, we are all here united, fighting for our soaps and the entire genre.
That's right.
We love Denise.
Wow.
We're not giving up.
That's
right.
right.
Yes. You are greatly loved.
And they do go on to say how
I watched
Stop it, I can't take it.
It's terrible that ABC canceled Ryan's Soap so abruptly. I watched all ABC soaps with my family and friends since I was 3 years old.
Wow.
we will get One Life to Live and All My Children back to Agnes.
Yes.
Back on our TV soon. We
Yes.
are all in this together. And we will never, ever give up our actors or our soaps.
Wow.
ABC doesn't deserve us as viewers. We will only watch General
They
Hospital
don't.
on their network.
They don't. They don't. No, ABC made it a huge mistake. They really did. And I don't know how they're going to ever rectify that.
By bringing it back.
Okay, that's a big thing though. You know, that's a big thing because they just couldn't wait to destroy those sets. And they just couldn't wait to sell that clothing. They just couldn't wait. And why that is, I don't know. It's like taking an audience and like treating them like they're a bug or something. Like, you know, maybe they won't notice if we just go like that. Yeah, or we'll make them. You know, the best line was, "We'll train them. We'll train them to like the revolution." You can't do that. You can't. No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
It's not a communist country. It's
It's
America.
not a baby that you
Yes.
can train, toilet train. You know?
Come on.
It's like, and that's not easy.
Like she said, y'all like family.
Yeah.
Do you realize what your characters have meant to
I actually do.
the country? I mean,
I actually do. I actually do realize that because I've been on television sufficiently a long time, and I know when I walk down the street and one of the, the nannies from Trinidad goes, "Oh, you rock, Roxy." Believe me, I feel it. It emotionally gets to me, and my goal in life has always been to entertain people. I don't know if I'm good or bad or as an actor, but I do know that I'm entertaining.
Great job.
And you know, my goal with Ryan's Hope was to make people stop ironing. You know, that a woman was not going to iron when Dealey was on. So, no. And they weren't going to run to the bathroom either, for that matter. So I accomplished that. And that's a big thing to accomplish, to entertain people and to take people on a journey with you. And that was my goal, like right after 9/11, because I couldn't even talk about acting for like 2 weeks, I think. And then when I had to go back on September 27th, I went, well, I'm going to entertain the troops because they really need it. I mean, we've just been through the worst hell hell on earth. And it was horrible. And I remember, I'm not a religious Jew, but I ended up working on Yom Kippur, and I usually would say, well, maybe I need not to work on that day, but it was my first day of work. I was the only Jew in the building, but I was really on a mission with this part that I was going to create something really great. And hardcore also, because I felt like, Roxy didn't need to be a good person at first, because she had to be kind of a little bit of a villain, So I just wanted to, I didn't inject, well, that's not true. There was quite a bit of humor in that first day. I was in the zone with that part. I was in that zone with that part from day one. As soon as my agent told me the name,
You knew what kind of character it was.
So you sit here with your beautiful hair, bone straight, but however, your character is known for the hair. Let's talk about hair. Can we talk about hair, or let's talk about something?
beauty parlor because my dad was a hairdresser. So, I grew up watching my father tease and make these sculptures out of people like my grandmother and all these women in Brooklyn have wings and things and spit curls and things and then even my father, when the poodle cut came in, which was a 50s thing, he'd like look at somebody's hair. I remember him telling my mother that somebody came in, they had long hair, and he'd like look at it, and then he'd put their hair in a ponytail and then just cut the ponytail off. And this person would be sitting there in the mirror going, "What have you done?" And then he would make this little poodle cut thing. I'll never forget when Vidal Sassoon created the first, geometric hair thing. I mean, he was a genius, Vidal Sassoon, and my father wanted to be a genius like him. So he looked at my hair one day and he went, Eileen, in order for me to do what I have to do at the beauty parlor, because Vidal Sassoon changed the face of hairdressing. Changed it. And it happened like that. And my father went, well, I have to experiment on someone.
So, of course.
So he got out a razor blade, and he started, he cut my hair, and then it was like a bowl cut in the front, and then it was like razored in the back, just razored. And, you know, I went into his store as a young girl with like long blonde hair here, and I came out as a boy.
So is that why they added to your character, opening your own salon?
You know, I didn't know. I don't know if they knew that my father was a hairdresser or not, and that I literally grew up in a beauty parlor. Maybe they did. I don't know. But it was so funny when they, you know, and I was so at ease, you know, with. My father was funny. My father used to, you know, back then everybody smoked, so my father would be like teasing hair, and he'd have a cigarette in his mouth, and the ashes would be this long, and it was just about to come into the woman's hair, you know. And, you know, he'd have his assistant like come by with an ashtray and everything, and it was so life was so different.
What did he think of your hair as Roxy?
Oh, he loved it. He loved it. He loved it. One day he told me it was a little bit too much hair for such a little girl. He said, Eileen, I think they overdid it a little. It was a little like Dolly Parton back in the 60s. And I went, you know, you're right, Dad. Whatever. You know, my father was very, very, very supportive of me. But it did scare him. I played a heroin addict on Third Watch. And I had them give me a cold sore, and I didn't wash my hair for 3 days before I did the show, and I had them give me like a black eye, and I wore like a really ratty old hat, and I thought it was one of the best jobs of anything that I've ever done. My father called me up and he said, Eileen, I am horrified that you were playing that character, that you let them make you look so ugly. And I went, Dad, I am so excited that I actually got to do this. I can't even tell you. So I'm not going to really listen to your comments about this. This is what an actor does.
Right.
You know,
So
when you're playing a certain thing, you want to look great. And then there are times where you really, really want to look terrible, and they just couldn't make me look terrible enough. I was really excited about that. They cut one part out of it that was great. I got to spit at the officers in charge that were trying to get me off the street because there was a bad batch of heroin going around, and my character was like the last person supposedly to have received this batch of heroin. So they were trying to warn me, and they were trying to get me into the hospital. And I thought, oh, forget it. And I spit at them, and then I went off into, you know, like the darkness of the, and I was just, it was such a great character, you know. Anyway, my parents have always been extremely supportive, and very excited that I was on TV, and very excited that I was back doing One Life.
Now, there's a story, can you confirm it, that you had something to do with bringing a young actor into Ryan's Hope?
Yeah.
And this young actor was homeless at one point? Could you?
Well, yes. Antoine was in a shelter, the Prince George shelter on 28th Street. In fact, he was the young man that I was visiting at the detention place when I got One Life to Live. We've had a long history. Yeah, he's 35 years old now, and it's a long story, many twists and turns in his life. And yes, but they, you know, Claire and Paul, the writers of Ryan's Hope, they saw all the publicity that I was getting by working with these kids, particularly with Antoine, because Antoine lived here on weekends, and I met him when he was 13. They were smart enough. And my manager, who passed away, I probably sent them a letter or something and said it would be great if you had these kids on. So it wasn't only Antoine, it was about 10 or 12 of these kids. But Antoine ended up doing a running role on the show, and he was really quite wonderful.
Did it make a huge difference in your lives? Like, do you?
Well, there were so many twists and turns, and he was incarcerated for a bit. So it's hard to explain when you don't have parents who are really looking out for you. And I ended up going to L.A. and he got arrested for something, and I wasn't here. It wasn't that I wasn't here for him, but it was.
Well, you was like a mom to him.
Yeah. So, but he did about at least 3 months on, and it was really quite extraordinary. Very gifted person. He's got a magazine now online called Power Magazine. So if you Google it, yeah. In fact, we did an interview with me out in California. I don't know if it's up and running, but I'm pretty proud of him. You know, he's been through a lot. You know, I didn't want kids of my own, so you know, I wanted to be there for these particular kids.
Right. Now, going back to One Life to Live as Roxy, let's talk about some of the leading men you act with.
Well, I only had one real leading man, but he was great, James DePaiva.
Is either one of them over you any day?
What do you mean? I thought you can't stand them.
Well, see, while I can't stand them, the sight of them at least doesn't make me physically ill. And I don't curse the day I met them, or wake up every morning just hoping that my marriage to them was nothing more than a really, really bad dream.
All right. Okay. All right. That is it.
What is?
That is it. I am so sick of your attitude.
Great. We're making progress.
Okay, you know, I try to do everything I can to make you happy. You know, nothing is ever enough for you.
Yeah, so what does that tell you?
Well, it says that you got a problem.
And they ended the Max Roxy thing way too.
Nigel. Forgot about Nigel. Nigel.
Well, hormonally, I think you could. Oh, Nigel, he's sweet. But that was a little harder to believe, you know, as a sexual relationship. But Peter Bartlett is one of the most stunning actors. He's just brilliant. But the Max and Roxy thing, I think, could have had a lot of legs on it. And I think the live week when we ended up getting married, and when he's so drunk he passed out in the bed, he doesn't know who's in bed with him, and I burrow up under the bed, and then I think it was one of the most brilliant. That whole live week, the wedding, the drunken wedding, where he was in a complete stupor and he married me. If someone can go back and look at this, he was in a drunken stupor, and he was, James DePaiva, it was probably some of the best work. He'd probably say it was some of the best work he's ever done and the most fun he's ever had. So they blew that. And there were reasons. I think they wanted to have Michael Easton on the show, and they were going to, Jim had been on the show for a long time. He had a nice, beautiful salary, and I think they wanted to give that salary to somebody else, but it was a crime. It was a crime.
And Roxy, your children, Rex, and that way. How you like working with them?
Oh, love it. Love it. I'm very close with Melissa Archer. You know, we've kept a good friendship. I just stayed in her place out in L.A. She let me house sit. I called JP to tell him I missed him. He's living out there, and I think he's a little homesick for New York. I think he's a lot homesick for New York. I loved working with them. They were great.
Wow. It seemed like I had so much fun on it.
You know, literally, I'd get a script and I'd go, I'd pay them to do this. I don't want them to know that I would pay them to do this, but I would just look at these scripts and I go, oh my God, this is hilarious. It was really a labor. It was just one of the greatest jobs I've ever had. It was a labor of love completely.
Okay, do you have any behind-the-scenes stories?
You know,
Who's the prankster? Who, you know?
I was a little... Bob Woods is a bit of a prankster, in a way. Never to me, but he's punked some people sometimes. You know, it's such an intense day that you've really got to be you know, you got to be on top of it, so you can't fool around too much. You can, you know, the days that I kind of love were the days of big group scenes where I didn't have a lot of lines, and then I could kind of like, you know, be the smart ass, you know, because I was, you know, people used to think that I was the goody-goody in class, but I was actually the one who was always I was kind of the behind-the-scenes class clown. I was always looking for a laugh as a kid. Because Lucille Ball was like, you know, she didn't know it, but she was my mentor. She was the person I idolized, you know. Yeah, oh no. I mean, I didn't grow up with soaps. I grew up with Gail Storm, who was a comedian, Joan, there was a show called I Love Joan. I Married Joan. Oh, those were my shows. Carol Burnett, love her. Mary Tyler Moore. Oh my God! But Lucille Ball.
Yeah, I love her too.
I used to watch them.
I love Lucy. Yeah.
Oh my God! I used to try to stay out of school so I could watch I Love Lucy in the morning. It was crazy. So I tried to, you know, I like to entertain people and make them laugh.
You do a good job, because we love Roxy.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. What are we going to do about her, though?
Yeah, we have to get the...
What are we going to do? Come on.
So let's bring them to soaps back.
Yes.
Well,
what do you suggest?
Meantime, I think Roxy could make a couple of appearances on General Hospital. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, okay. So that in the meantime,
Or just have a show called Roxy.
just have, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, really, that is actually a great idea, except the ABC owns the rights. They own the rights to Roxy.
Wow.
They own Roxy
So
Blossom.
I love Roxy.
I love Roxy.
I love it.
Right.
God, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I always thought Roxy really could have her own, you know.
She could carry it.
No, she could, absolutely. I talk about her like she's not here.
But what do you suggest to the soap fans? What can we do?
Well, definitely have to write to General Hospital saying that you'd like to see Roxy. I could play a Brooklyn Italian mob wife over there.
Okay.
I could do that very well. I could, because I'm from Brooklyn, and I have a very dark wig that I wore in my big gay Italian wedding. I did so I could definitely play a mob wife there, very much.
What part of Brooklyn did you grow up in?
Central, East 17th and Newkirk. I kind of think of it as like dead center Brooklyn.
Yes.
Like dead center, actually.
What schools did you go to?
I went to PS 217, and then we moved to Forest Hills, Queens, and I went to Russell Sage Junior High School, and then I went to Professional Children's School on West 60th Street when I became a professional child. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you're beautiful. We now move into the
Yes,
beauty segment.
Do you have any beauty tips for us?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I have several secrets.
Yes, let's hear it.
Well, the first thing is I use a product called It Works, and there are these body wraps if you want to lose a couple of inches around the midriff, but also they have these face masks. It's paper, and it just really lifts up your face. It's maybe not like a, surgery, but it's pretty nice. It just really does this nice firming thing. Neither one of you actually need it, but it's really great. And they also makes like a green product called Greens on the Go, which adds alkaline to your system because we have too much acid. We eat things that are too much acid. So I do that. I've been drinking a tea called Cali tea, Calli. It's from a company called Sunrider, and I've been doing that since 1984. And I take Bikram yoga. I take yoga in a 105-degree room. Really? And boy, it's more than hot, it's scalding hot. It's Bikram, Bikram, and that's its own, believe it or not, copywritten yoga. It's 26 positions, And you can't do it unless, you can't do those 26 positions in that order unless you are a Bikram studio. And it's a 105-degree room, and you sweat profusely.
How long have you been doing this? How long?
It'll be 2 years in July. And it is very intense. Yeah, it's very intense. It does a lot of really interesting things. Yeah.
Now, have you always been lean, or did you ever have a weight issue?
Yeah, I did. Because I had, you know, one of the things that was very odd, I knew that I wasn't going to have much of a career as a dancer at a certain point, because I was tiny, and I felt unless I was an extraordinary dancer, I wasn't going to be able to play an adult dancer. So, and I wasn't really an extraordinary dancer. So, you know, the universe has a way of doing some strange things. My thyroid went on the blink, and I went from 89 dancer pounds to 135 pounds at 18 years old because my thyroid stopped working for a year, and they couldn't seem to diagnose it. And I couldn't dance. So I had to figure out other things to do. I was in college. It was my one and only year of college. And then they diagnosed this thyroid, and I lost all that weight. I must have lost the weight in like 2 weeks, because I kind of gained it in 2 weeks. I literally, my thyroid just like went dead on me. And to this day, I still take thyroid medication, but I've taken less and less of it because of the other supplements that I do.
And what about the supplements? What do you take?
Well, green tea is essential. People have to drink green tea. They have to drink a lot of green tea. It controls your weight. A lot of people don't realize this. So I not only drink the Cali green tea, but I drink, I take capsules from another company, from New Skin, a product called Tegreen, Tegreen, I think, Tegreen. So I think I have the equivalent of about 30 cups of green tea a day.
Ooh.
The equivalent, because
of the capsules.
Yeah, I mean, this is because of the capsules. Capsules have 7 in there. And then the greens to go from the company it called It Works, and that's the name of the company, called It Works. And you have to be pretty ballsy to have a company called It Works if it doesn't work. So it must work, because you'd never call it It Works. Anyway, that's the equivalent of like 7 servings of fruits and vegetables. Because we don't eat good enough, you know. So the first thing is you have to change your eating habits. I always had good eating habits. But when you have a thyroid issue, it doesn't matter if you eat nothing, you still gain weight. You just gain weight, period. You just gain weight. And it's really not fun, because I was doing, the last thing I ever did for Michael Bennett was the Milliken Industrial Show, and we had these clothes that had Velcro. And, you know, when you start putting on weight, which is what was happening to me, I went from the whole time I was doing the Milliken show, I went from 89 pounds to 92 pounds to the scale was just like going up. So by the time I finished that run, I was up to like about 96 pounds, so the Velcro was not sticking as well as it was. And I was very light, but still, on a little frame like me, if you gain like 7, 8 pounds, that's a lot. And then when I got past 100, I went to the doctor, and he said, oh, you're an actress, and you're probably neurotic about your weight and everything like that. Call me if you get over 105. Well, 2 days later, I was over 105. I mean, my system had just run, it was crazy. It was just going crazy. And, health care back then was really horrible. It was like when a girl, it was like I wasn't taken seriously at all. I had to walk out of a couple of endocrinologists' office because they were condescending to me, and they didn't really realize the value of, I was a professional already, and I couldn't afford to be putting on 30 pounds of weight. Well, who can? Especially when you're not eating. It's one thing if you're eating, but if you're not eating, you're eating like a couple of egg whites, and you're eating like an apple, and you're eating
and you're gaining weight.
Wow.
So you're gaining weight because you're eating.
No, you're gaining weight because you have no iodine in your system. Your thyroid is just like, you're not metabolizing. You have no metabolism at that point. It's sluggish, it's slow. And right before that happened, I couldn't keep weight on. I should have known something was going on because I was like, I was like 16 years old and I was 85 pounds, which was a little bit thin. I kind of liked it, because in my family you couldn't be, you couldn't be thin enough, because it was so funny. My mother had all these modeling, all these Vogue and everything. She used to work for a photographer who was a high fashion photographer, Alessio De Paola, and his models were like 6'2" and they weighed like 98 pounds. So it was kind of freakish, but we kind of like idolized these strange models from Europe. There was one called Katinka Blika, and she must have been 6'4", and she was stunning. She was absolutely gorgeous, but it was like, bone thin and everything. So it was a little, I'm not saying my household was completely normal, but it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. So I vowed that whatever was going to be in my control would be in my control. So I've always tried to take control of my eating and, control what you can control and what you can't. Like I went in for an audition yesterday and I gave a great audition. I can't control what they think of me. All I can do is do a great job. I don't think they're going to hire me, and I can't control that.
Right. But you can control what
Yeah, I can control what I wear, what I put in my mouth, what I sing for the audition, how I present myself in life. To many people, food is way, way, way too important. And eating too much food and not tasting the bite that's in their mouth. I contend that Americans really, they're always on to the next bite before they've even chewed the bite that's in their mouth. They don't chew food. We don't chew food. We don't chew, we snort it. We really snort food. We're not tasting it. So.
Thank you.
How do you feel about how they canceled Ryan's Hope?
Well, first of all, Ryan's Hope is not supposed to be the show that was canceled when it was canceled. It was supposed to be Loving. But, Agnes Nixon is a very powerful person and a very talented person. And Loving was a Agnes Nixon show. And somehow, some way, she got them to... They had to cancel something. And they canceled Ryan's Hope. And so we were called on the floor. And we were called on the floor, and we were told that it was canceled. And it was right around Halloween, and so we had November, December, and all of January, and part of February, and then we were off the air. Yeah, so we didn't really have that much notice. I had a premonition, though, that we were going to get canceled, because I was sitting in my dressing room, and it was never a job that I particularly wanted, because I wanted to do comedy. I never really wanted to do a soap. And I finally, my last 4 years of Ryan's Hope, I really made peace with it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I loved the people that I was working with. And I remember being on the phone, the day that we were canceled, I remember being on the phone with my friend Maureen. And I got off the phone and I went, I'm really so thankful for this job. This was really never a job that I ever wanted. But now I really love it, and we're going to get canceled. And I knew right there, it was almost like this, when I get premonitions about things, it's like I see the writing, I see the writing right in front of me, and it was like, and now you're going to get canceled. And they called us on the set later that day. I should have written down what my prediction was going to be.
Wow. Are you still in touch with some of the actors from that show?
Yeah, we just had a little party. We had a little luncheon the other day, about a month and a half ago.
Wow, it would be nice if y'all do a reunion, come back together and do something.
It would. We thought SoapNet was going to have us do we did a reunion on SoapNet, but we thought they were going to do a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, that would be
nice. That would be nice.
Now, did you have a premonition about One Life to Live, or was that like rumored for too long?
It was rumored for too long. I mean, you know, boy, I came out of yoga and I saw that my agent had left me like 3 messages. And I went, well, it's either something really great or they've just fired me from One Life to Live or something, you know. And I thought, man, I gotta let go of Roxy. But, and, oh, when I heard the tone of his voice, Ilene, they just canceled. I was in a state of shock. I was so glad I wasn't over at the studio. That's the one thing I was so grateful for, because they called everybody into the studio over at the View, and they made everybody sit there and watch that freak Brian Franz. Yes, I said freak. Shame on you, Brian. Shame, shame, shame. Anyway, he makes this speech. He makes this speech about, oh, you know, I'm so glad I wasn't there. I would have thrown something. I really would have thrown something. My lunch, you know. It's sad.
Were you privy as an actress to know what was in the heads of these business heads, Brian Franz? Like, wow.
I really don't want to know what's in their head.
But they're making decisions to get rid of something.
What those decisions are. You know, I'm just saying, they make decisions. Some decisions are stupid. And this probably will go down for ABC. I do believe it will go down as one of the stupidest things. They underestimated their audience, and they made a mistake. Because it's not just not affecting daytime, it's affecting nighttime. You know, the viewing audience is different now. So, you know, they keep on expecting something in the day is going to get 8 million viewers. Because that's the way it used to be when there were three stations. Now there are 400 and something, 500. And now you're expecting to get that 8 million or that 4 million all the time. And it doesn't exist for anybody anymore, except maybe some of the very, very big shows. You know, my friend, brilliant actor, Stephen Lang, who was in Avatar, played the villain, the military guy in Avatar. He was the lead in Terra Nova. And they got probably 8 million viewers or something, or 10 million viewers their first night. But they didn't get 14 million, which is what Ashton Kutcher managed to get on 2.5 Men.
So they wanted the 14 million.
Yeah, so already they felt that it wasn't the big hit that it was supposed to be. And then they decided it was too expensive. So they're not, you know, too expensive for that 8 million audience, you know. Just warped. And also, you know, I think the networks have to figure out another way for them to sell commercial time, because I don't know about anybody else, but I DVR almost anything I can. And I go through those commercials. Skip.
No, right through it.
And the terrible thing was I missed Smash the other night, so I had to watch it on, No, I couldn't get it on demand. It wasn't coming up. My demand was all screwed up. So I was trying to watch it on the internet, and the commercials were driving me nuts. And you couldn't go back. If you wanted to see a scene again, you couldn't go forward. You couldn't go back. You couldn't. I think you can on something called Blip TV, but I just was on NBC.com. No, give me a good old DVR. I don't think they even knew how many people were watching the soaps. I really don't. I actually think because of the DVR situation, they didn't even know who was watching.
Exactly.
Didn't even know.
And then you got the soap network. People come home at night and watch. So they didn't know.
So ABC, Disney creates SoapNet, and then they're in competition with SoapNet. And then they're talking about SoapNet like it's the enemy. You demented human beings. You create this thing. Deborah Blackwell, who was brilliant, she created it. And then the freak decides that he's going to run it. So he gets rid of he gets rid of Deborah Blackwell, and they had a perfectly wonderful place to satisfy all the fans. I don't know.
Now, you're a singer. You sang for us a little earlier. Now Laura's a singer as well.
Ah.
I also wrote and sang a protest song.
Are we going to hear it?
And now, for the debut of "We Won't Let Ourselves Die," sung by Laura and Foxy Roxy.
Oh, I'm just doing a slight amount of backup. Just a slight amount.
No, they're not going to take away our drama. No, they're not going to take away our romance. No, they're not going to take away our soaps. United we stand, and divided we fall. Come on, let's show them, let's give it all. Let's show them that we stand true to what we say. 'Cause the real so bad won't walk away. We won't walk away. We won't walk away. We won't walk away. We won't let ourselves die. We won't just We won't let ourselves die. We won't just stand by. We won't let ourselves die. We're keeping ourselves alive. We won't let ourselves die. We won't just stand by. We won't let ourselves die. We're keeping all my children and one life to live alive. We won't let ourselves die.
We won't let ourselves die.
We're keeping all my children and one life to live alive. United we stand, divided we fall. Come on, let's show them, let's give it all. Let's show them that we stand true to what we say. 'Cause the real so bad won't walk away. We won't walk away. We won't walk away. We won't walk away. We won't let ourselves die. We keep ourselves alive. We won't let ourselves die. We won't just stand by. We won't let ourselves die. We're keeping ourselves alive. We won't let ourselves die. We won't just stand by. We won't let ourselves die. Go, go. We're keeping all my children and one life to live alive. We won't let ourselves die. We're keeping all my children and one life to live alive. No, 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 no.
Ilene, how can the fans support you? How can we get you on General Hospital, One Life to Live, Come Back, or I Love Foxy Roxy show? What can we do?
Well, the Foxy Roxy show would be fantastic. It would, if ABC had any imagination, that would be great. But let's be practical about it. General Hospital probably would be the easiest, answer right now if they really do want to see me, and if they wrote to the producers, to Frank Valentini. And after all, Frank is, our One Life to Live producer. He's doing a great job over General Hospital. It already looks like it has much more life going. They brightened up the lights. It was so dark over there, and everybody was just like wearing white, black, or gray, and leather. So it looks so much better now. No, it's, you know, it looks better to me anyway. And so if people want to see me, that would be the logical place. Or Days of Our Lives, because Gary Tomlin is over at Days of Our Lives, who was the original producer on One Life to Live.
Do you have a Facebook page? We could.
I have a regular Ilene Kristen page, and then I think there's a fan page, I think. So, but they could write letters to the producers over those shows.
You hear that, fans? We want Roxy back. You know what you got to do.
That's right.
So Roxy, yeah. So if there's not anything else you want to say,
Thank you to everybody. You know, we really feel the support. We really feel it's a kind of sad time in a way, but we feel the support, and the networks really need to listen.
We want to thank you again.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Ilene, for having us in your home. It's an
Good
honor.
acoustics in here, huh?
Yes, such an honor. And we wish you all the best. We will see you again. So pack your bags. You're coming back to Lambview. We're going to get your bag, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right. Till again, let's talk about selves. Bye-bye.
Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Hey, let's talk about so. Hey, let's talk about so. Hey, let's talk about so.
Gymnastics at all. So this was live television, you know, we had to come off of a slide and go into a cartwheel. And I don't think I've ever been as nervous about anything in my entire life. Now, for some reason, my mother always said to me over the years, because she's always very supportive of me, she goes, you know, cartwheels are not really your thing. I don't know what she saw in this broadcast, but I was always scared to see it. So I was at a big fan thing, and somebody came over to me and said, you know, I saw that you were on Bell Telephone Hour. I can get you a copy of that. And I went, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. He went, what's the matter? I went, I had to do a cartwheel in it, and I'm not so sure. Like, according to my mother, I might not have been any good. So he actually got me this tape. And I was I was never so nervous about watching anything in my life. And I actually was great doing the cartwheel. It was the girl either before me who slipped on the fake grass. So my mother, in her nervousness, must have thought it was me. So all these years I thought I didn't do that cartwheel very well. Anyway, so I know that was my start in the business. And from there I worked with Michael Bennett, the choreographer who later did Chorus Line. But I did a show with him called Henry Sweet Henry, which was based on the world of Henry Orient. And that was really a thrill. It was a very, very difficult experience. He was demanding, to say the very least. And it was a very hard experience. I kind of knew then that I wasn't really going to be like a dancer who's going to have a long career. I kind of figured my dance career would span from 14 to 18, and I was in for many, many, many years. I was there in 3-year chunks. I'd be there for like 3 years, and I'd be there for 2 years, but it was over a 14-year period that I did Delia. So when I auditioned for it, well, first of all, I walked into the casting person's office dressed like a hippie. I looked like Janis Joplin, you know, like on a really bad day, and she went, and she was great, Shirley Rich. They don't make them like this anymore. She goes, darling, do not, and I repeat, do not wear that hippie outfit when you come back for your audition, because you are right for this. And I went, I don't really want to do soap. She goes, I'm telling you, this is a wonderful, these people are wonderful, and it's Claire Labine and Paul Mayer. And I went, wow, whoever they are, I don't know. And they really were wonderful. And she was the type of casting person to warm up the room for you, which a lot of casting people don't do anymore for whatever reason. I think they're scared of like warming up the room, and then you come and you dud, and then they don't want to take the blame for that. But Shirley, I don't know what Shirley told them about me, but I walked into the room, and Claire Labine and Paul Mayer were like this. They were so, they were just, I don't know what she told them. Oh, she had just done Grease or whatever. Oh, she's playing a rock and roll singer. I don't know what, because they were so
He
excited.
welcomed you warmly, basically. So you
A
were
little too warmly, because then I thought, oh my God, these people really like me and I don't really want to do a soap.
Wow.
So what was it like as a soap opera actress compared to, let's say, you?
Hey, let's talk about show. Can we? Let's talk about TV. Let's talk about all the things behind the scenes. Show. Can we talk about it? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I'm Laura,
And I'm Stella.
and welcome to Let's Talk About Soaps. Today on the show,
We have a soap opera legend.
on the heart of daytime.
That's right. And she is a legend from One Life to Live.
A true legend.
So all you One Life to Livers, you're going to be in for a treat.
Yes, get ready.
You remember this character from One Life to Live. She has the big hair. She has the crazy, zany personality.
Big attitude.
Yes, you know who I'm talking
Speak
about.
to mind. Don't hold back. And what makes this interview so special, she invited us into her home.
Yes.
Okay, now soap fans, it don't get no better than that. Okay.
So we'd like to welcome to Let's Talk About Soaps, Ilene Kristen, better known as...
Roxy Boston.
Foxy, Roxy. Get it right.
Excuse me. Foxy Roxy.
Hey, baby girl, don't you worry about a thing. Your mama's here.
I'm a little nervous, okay? So sue me. Sue you? That's not something that you say to a lawyer, especially a lawyer who's gotten under your dryer with green hair.
SOS, save our story. Oh, let's drink to Eileen. Come on, catfish, let's dance. We ain't going down without a fight.
Absolutely right about that. And I used to act my way through the dance numbers, so I went, wow, I must be a really good actress, because I'm making people believe that I can do a cartwheel, I can do these double turns, which really I wasn't very good. I had good rhythm, though. I had very, very good rhythm.
So how did you transition from a dancer to the soaps? How did that happen?
Well, there was an intermediate area which combined my dance ability with my acting ability and my singing ability, which was Grease. I was in the original company of Grease.
So how was that working on Grease
That
with
was
John
amazing.
Travolta?
Well, John came into the show about a year after we were doing it, because Jim Canning, the original Duty, wanted to go back to Chicago. So John came in from the First National Company, and he stole my thunder, though, I have to say, because I was the youngest person. I was a lot younger than a lot of the people in the show. And John was younger than me. So I let him be the baby. And then, after that was over, I was playing like a Janis Joplin type of character. After I quit Grease, I was there for 2 years. I did this like Janis Joplin rock singer in this show called Blackbird Spring, and I got a call to audition for Ryan's Hope. And I was not really a soap opera watcher. I used to watch the Dick Van Dyke Show. I was really like a comedy person. I Love Lucy. And so my agent called me over, and I went, I don't really want to go for soap. And he went, oh, it'll probably run for 6 months, which it ran.
And we just love her. We love her character. And she is a sweetheart on the screen as well as off.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I miss Roxy. It's been since, I guess, November 18th, since I put those clothes on. And I think a world without Roxy is not a very happy place, actually. Of course, I'm prejudiced, but a lot of her clothing is down in my basement, and it talks to me all the time when I go down.
Ring dog, Foxy, Roxy.
But your career it didn't start with just Roxy. So we're here to talk about your career. How did you get started in acting?
Okay, well, actually, I got started as a dancer. When I was 14 years old, I was taking a class with one of the most amazing people, Matt Maddox. He was a very, very well-known choreographer. And he was famous, and I studied with him at 14. And he came over to me one day in class, and he went, "Would you like to be on television?" I choreographed the Bell Telephone Hour, and I was just like, the Bell Telephone Hour, because I'd seen every star, you know, every big star had been a host of it, and these wonderful dancers. And so I ended up doing the Bell Telephone Hour with Robert Young from Father Knows Best.
Wow.
At that time, that doesn't get any bigger than that. And Carol Lawrence, who was the star of West Side Story. It was several years after that, but it was Carol Lawrence. And I was a dancer on it, and which was really amazing. I had to do a cartwheel, and I hadn't done any gymnastics